How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the tragic event that happened in Sonora State in Mexico, not too far from Arizona, about an hour outside of Arizona. At least 9 Americans were shot, killed, possibly set on fire by drug cartels in the area. Now, I got to start from the beginning to explain what's going on and give you some insight as to how this happened and what the action should be after this from the United States and also Mexico. Now, you have an entire family, basically, maybe some other friends that are Americans. They may have been living in Mexico or staying there for a while in the Mormon community. You know, Mitt Romney's family, they had left Utah and went to Mexico. I think they came back later. This family may have been in Mexico staying there or just hanging out, whatever the case may be. They were Mormon. They were headed to Arizona for a shopping trip from Mexico. Now, along the way, as they're driving, they get caught up in gunfire between two rival cartels. 9 people killed, twin 8-month-old babies. Very, very sad. A lot of kids. I think there were 6 women, 3 children. So just innocent people had no way to protect themselves. Very bad. But I think the reason why the violence escalated into, the car being set on fire and stuff like that is because the cartels realized, okay, we got these people here that may or may not be dead. We don't want to have any evidence about who did it or whatever. So they torched the car. Some people did survive. I think a 13-year-old survived and some others. So there may be a way to testify against these particular people. But the problem with that is Mexico itself. Mexico is pretty much dominated by these drug cartels. Okay, when I say they, I mean the Mexican government, when they arrested El Chapo's son, the cartels retaliated, and within a couple of hours, the Mexican government was forced to release El Chapo's son from custody back to the cartels or wherever he wanted to go. So when you are forced by organized crime on the street to do certain things or to not do certain things, you got to ask yourself who's really running the show. And the answer must be those that you got to answer to, or else you're going to face drastic penalties that you're not really ready to deal with. During the whole El Chapo son situation, these guys had like 50 cal mounted on top of trucks that are modified. I mean, these guys are heavily armed to the teeth. Now, people are going to blame the United States for this on both sides of the aisle, but it's not true. The main thing that I'm going to hear is, well, if you cut off the drugs or if you cut off their drug sale, they would not be able to fund themselves. But how are you going to do that? People are saying, okay, make all drugs legal in the U.S., therefore the cartels will not be able to sell drugs in the U.S. And that'll be their money gone. They pretty much dissolve, and then that'll solve the crime issue in Mexico as well. But there's a few things wrong with that. First of all, Mexico is very poor, especially compared to the U.S. Maybe it's not as poor as third world country in Africa, but it's most certainly poor to be in North America, much poorer than the U.S. and Canada, crippling poverty to the point where it's like, okay, what am I going to do to live like an American? Maybe I'll just commit organized crime. That's the first thing. The second thing is that many of the drugs that they sell, that they traffic across the border to Americans, are legal. Okay, that's one thing people don't understand about this opioid crisis and the drug crisis. The drugs are legal. Fentanyl is a legal drug. It's not illegal, it's legal. The problem is that these legal drugs like fentanyl, Oxycontin, Xanax, Lortabs, Percocet, these are being sold on the street illegally, outside of the peer review of the government, local, federal, etc., outside of a doctor's supervision and care, prescription. And here's an example. If you go to Mexico right now, even on the border, you may have these quote unquote pill mills. They have them here in the States, but not quite as blatant as it is Mexico. You can just go to the pill mill and get pretty much whatever you want. Okay. Now, who do you think is running that? You think it's Mexican government? You think it's legitimate doctors? Or is it the cartels running these organizations where you're able to get pretty much whatever you want? The problem with the drugs in America right now is the just overwhelming abundance of them, the variety, and the ease of access. You have legal drugs that are being sold illegally on the street. And you don't want that. If you make drugs legal, you're not going to solve the opioid crisis. And quite frankly, you won't stop the cartels because they're still going to sell legal drugs illegally the same way they do now. And beyond that, they're not only interested in selling drugs. In many ways, to call them a drug cartel may be kind of understating what they do. They're involved in kidnapping, human trafficking. They will steal oil from pipelines and sell that on the black market. They do all kind of things, vehicle theft, just general theft. That kind of thing is what they get involved with. It's an organized crime unit. And there's many different cartels that operate this way. And they're international, not just U.S., Mexico, but also China. A lot of the opiates that are in the United States on the street illegally come from China through Mexico. Guns, same way. Okay. Now, granted, a lot of the guns that are in Mexico come from the United States, but how do you get a 50 cal? I mean, where do you get that at in the United States? What gun store can I go to get a 50 cal? Can I go to Bob's gun store and get a truck mounted gun? Where did they get that? So at a certain point, we can't just blame the U.S. and say, oh, the U.S., they got this big drug problem. It's being fueled by the cartels. And if you cut off the drugs from being illegal, you're going to stop it. Newsflash, the drugs are already legal to being so illegally. And then the whole thing about United States, oh, they got so many guns. They're washing guns, is that and the third. That's what Mexico's getting them. How about these big grenades, bazooka? I mean, they have guns that are above what Americans have. So the question is, where are the guns really coming from? I don't really know. If you know, let me know in the comments. But to get back to the tragedy that happened, this is very unfortunate. Mexico is a dangerous country. You want to go out there and be a tourist and hang out, this, that, and the third. I'm not quite sure about that one. Not quite sure. People are going to Cancun and just trying to enjoy themselves, wind up dead. Same thing with going on a family trip to go shopping from a Mormon community in Mexico where you just minding your own business, doing your thing. You get caught up in the crossfire, then set on fire so nobody can survive to tell the story about what happened. It's not safe down there. The drug cartels, or just the cartels, or organized crime units, they pretty much run shop. And what are you really going to do about it? I'm not really sure. But I just want to say rest in peace to all those that passed away. Trump said that this could mean war. He may talk to the president of Mexico and see, hey, what can we do here? Obviously, you guys are not having a good go at being able to control these drug cartels. And now the cartels are impacting American lives. See, it's one thing to be in Mexico and you are mistreating Mexico and their citizens. That's not a good thing. That's not something I condone, obviously. But is it worth us getting involved? Maybe, maybe not. But then when it comes to Americans being hurt in Mexico, now, that might be a little bit different. I would still not really want to get involved in a quote unquote war, but we can't have Americans be killed. And I think this is further reason as I close why we got to have that wall be built up. 100%. Is it going to stop all crime? No. Is it going to stop all drug activity, gun activity? No. But will it be a deterrent? Will it be an effective tool to use in the arsenal of weapons to use against this kind of violence, this kind of proliferation of drugs and guns? Yes, it will. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that I'm correct about the security we need on the southern border to keep violent crime like what happened to the 9 innocent Americans out of our country? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Do you think there's more to this story that I've not been able to say here, or that I've not said for whatever reason? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Do you think eliminating the drug money from the cartels would squash the violence because the cartels will be weakened in Mexico? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why. And also let me know how we're going to cut that drug money off. Like I said, most of the drugs that are being sold on the street illegally, the opioids, are legal drugs, not illegal. You can get them legally with a prescription in a hospital, maybe some other legal means, but they're being sold illegally. How do we stop legal drugs from being sold the wrong way? How do we solve the opioid crisis? And how do we fix the problem with crime that could be encroaching upon our country from south of the border? Whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.